Hello everyone and welcome to a new video series on the channel, hopefully the start of something ongoing that I can continue to add to over time. Now I know I made the post the other day saying I'd be taking a short break, and emphasis on the short, I guess it's already over. I couldn't resist making this video. Basically, I want to, rather than, in the past on my old channel I used to make the occasional video where I'd list off a bunch of planes I want to add to War Thunder. But rather than doing that, I figured some of them could deserve an entire video just for themselves. And with yesterday's release of the B-47 Destroyer dev blog, well, I couldn't resist doing it. I mean, jet bombers are finally... Well, a jet bomber is finally here, and hopefully it means it's the start of something great, which is multiple jet bombers. Now, obviously, several things need to change before jet bombers can comfortably be introduced to the game. And before anyone says it, yes, I know they're already in the game. We have the Arados, we have the Canberras, we have the B-57s, and we have the IL-28s and Tu-14s and so on, and the Voiture, assuming I'll probably mispronounce that, the French thing, which even then is more of a strike aircraft anyway. Yes, things need to change, like for example, more strategic bomb targets, more earnings from bombing said targets, and just tankier hitboxes, not just for bombers but all planes in the game, and more detailed visual damage models, because, well, your entire plane could be black and red in the X-ray, and you'll see one bloody bullet hole. So, for goodness sake, War Thunder, make it more interesting. I mean, like back in the day, way back in the day, in part before I even started playing War Thunder, which was in 2015. Wow, 10 years this year. Anyways, back in the day, and I suppose around the time I was playing War Thunder for the first time, it was actually quite a detailed damage model. It wasn't quite as good as IL-2's damage model, but it was visual. If you took a hit to your wing, there'd be many holes and scratches and bits missing from said wing. Nowadays, you don't see that, and I think that's kind of a shame. Anyways, we're getting sidetracked. Today, we're talking about planes I want in War Thunder. Specifically, one plane I want in War Thunder. That is the B-47 Stratojet, the first true modern jet bomber. So, ladies and gentlemen, I welcome you to this new series, The Planes I Want in War Thunder. So straight away I can say the B-47 is a bit of a fan favourite. It seems to have gained a small cult following within the aviation industry. Just first of all because it's a very, very nice looking plane. Look at those lines. It's a very sleek design. But also because with the release of the B-47 Destroyer, people seem to be getting awfully excited. I mean, it's the first jet bomber War Thunder has added since, I think, the Tu-14 and the Voiture. And again, the Voiture, I'm probably still mispronouncing that. Voiture, whatever, the French thing, it's more of a strike aircraft anyway, so it's not really a jet bomber. I mean, it's a light jet bomber. It's the B-46 is the first big jet bomber we've had in a while, and even then, it's more of a medium jet bomber anyway. This was more or less designed to replace the B-26 Invader, which was, I suppose, getting a bit long in the tooth after the Korean War. Now, the B-46 is an exciting aircraft, but people want to take things one step further, and I seem to have noticed that with its arrival, there's an awful lot of people saying, hooray, this paves the way for the B-47, and fingers crossed it does, because, oh my god, do we want the B-47. Hell yes. That is pretty awesome. So, what is the B-47, and why is it epic, and why do we want it in-game? Well, referring to my own tech tree that I made, I placed it at 9.0. Now, like I said, in this dream version of War Thunder, planes are tankier, so bombers have a better chance of surviving. And there are more strategic targets to bomb, so these new jet bombers have a bigger purpose. They have a bigger role to play on the battlefield rather than just being fodder. So, anyways, the B-47 is a very, very important aircraft. It was designed in the late 1940s as a high-speed swept-wing jet bomber, and ultimately the first of its type to enter mass production. So this was really the first mass-produced swept-wing jet bomber, because planes like the B-45 and the Canberra came before it technically, but they didn't have swept wings. So they weren't necessarily taking advantage of cutting-edge technology of the time. Now, of course, swept wings can help improve things like range and speed, and this really became the US Air Force's main jet bomber for the first part of the 1950s. So this was actually designed in 1951, first flying in 1951, which is kind of insane when you think about it. I think 1951 is its introduction date into service. So the US had these while the Korean War was still going on, which is low-key insane to think about. I mean, imagine these in the Korean War. That is kind of ahead of its time. Anyways, the B-47 proved to be far superior to all medium bombers before it, including jet variants, and effectively made them all obsolete. The B-47 had excellent fighter-like handling characteristics and was praised for its high speed, although it was sometimes plagued by mechanical problems. But then again, it's the 1950s, which planes weren't plagued by mechanical problems? Basically, all of them either suffered from poor reliability or a high accident rate. So, yeah, that's not really saying much. It's not really a dampener on the B-47's reputation. I mean, basically, every plane in the US Air Force was suffering accidents. This one really is no different. Nonetheless, though, this is an important aircraft. It served as the basis for the B-52, sometimes being referred to as the baby B-52 due to its design, especially when it bears a lot of resemblance to the ex-B-52, the prototype. And not only that, it also kind of served as the general basis for all future jet bomber programs. The same kind of basic layout was kind of used as a stencil or template or inspiration for not just America but other nations around the world. Due to its influential design, the Stratojet would become known as the Mother Jet, serving as the basic jet bomber design for all future designs to come. Pretty impressive stuff. Now, like many planes in the 1950s, the B-47 was used for a number of tests and experiments, world record breaks, and so on and so on. It was used heavily as a refueling tanker aircraft and reconnaissance aircraft after its main frontline role as a strategic bomber was soon fulfilled by the B-52s, and really had pretty busy career over the next 10 years. I mean, from 1951, it was basically phased out in the 1960s in almost every role, pretty much, because, well, the B-52 was faster, longer ranged, and had more than double the payload. Although, that said, despite that, this thing still has a hefty payload of its own. I mean, the brand new advertised B-66 destroyer, which is currently the highest payload of any jet-dedicated bomber in the game at 12,000 pounds, well, the B-47 could carry 25,000 pounds. For reference, that's 5,000 more than the B-29 Superfortress. It's not quite as high as other planes like, well, the B-50, for example, but it's still very, very good for a jet bomber with, quote, fighter-like handling characteristics, so it's pretty nice. It also has a defensive 20mm cannon tail turret, so it's not totally defenseless, more or less as capable of defending itself as the B-66. Will it be more agile than the B-66? I don't know. It's a bigger plane, but according to people on the dev server and the test server, well, the B-66 is quite sluggish in handling. And so will this, apparently, according to fighter pilots and just B-47 pilots in general, this plane handled like a fighter. Will it be agile? I don't know. Needless to say, it was a very important aircraft in the Strategic Air Command, and served as America's main nuclear deterrent for the first part of the 1950s, which is pretty good. Pretty nice to say, and if you are interested where a lot of this footage in the background is coming from, it comes from the movie The Strategic Air Command, which uses a lot of incredibly good high-quality footage of B-47s and, as a little bonus, B-36 Peacemakers as well. So really, amazingly, it's one of those weird cases where some of the best footage you can find of an aircraft actually comes from a movie, such as the YB-49, which we'll talk about in a future video. Anyways, the B-47. So why do people want it? We've kind of discussed that, and it's just an important plane. It's a nice looking plane. It was built in the thousands. 2,000 of these planes were built, stationed across the USA, and in bases in England as well as several other countries where the US had presence, such as Japan. It really just was everywhere, and yet it doesn't seem to be in War Thunder, probably because War Thunder's a little bit scared of adding these iconic and very powerful jet bombers, especially the bigger ones like the B-52, the Tu-95, and that sort of thing. But I think this one's smaller, or small enough, to maybe just about squeeze into what War Thunder deems its limits at the moment, because, you know, they have boundaries. I imagine we'll get big jet bombers at some point, but as the game stands right now, probably not at the moment. But this one's probably small enough to just about fit through the cracks and, well, squeeze into the game as it is. So that would be nice to see. I've placed mine at 9.0, which, well, it's in danger of some heat-seeking missiles, but at the end of the 1950s it would have been. And so I think that's kind of fair, and most missiles at 9.0 aren't particularly good. Not all of them. Some of them are pretty dangerous, and in up tier this thing will be quite scary. Well, it'll be quite scary to fly, should I say, because you don't want to be chased down by a MiG-21 in this thing, because you stand no chance. I said this thing was fast, but 607 miles an hour isn't really fast enough to outrun supersonic planes. It is fast enough to maybe keep some of the subsonic ones at bay, though, and if they get close enough, hopefully your gunner will actually be competent enough to shoot it down. Anyways, that kind of sums up what the B-47 is, and why it should be in the game. It's an important part of American aviation history and was the logical next step for jet bombers. I mean, I've placed mine after the B-66, and probably War Thunder will as well, but because in capability it's basically better in every way. The B-66 is more of a strike bomber. It wasn't really a high-altitude strategic bomber in the same way that the B-47 Stratojet probably is. But despite that, the B-66 actually came after it. That's more of a late 1950s aircraft. This is an early 1950s aircraft, so it would be nice to see, well, because they're clearly keen on adding some planes from the 1950s, it would be nice to see they kind of go full circle and add where it all started, and of course, you know, where this derived from, the B-45 Tornado, another awesome early jet bomber, America's first jet bomber, still not present in the game though, so it would be nice to see that again. Would fit within War Thunder's boundaries as to what would fit in the game as a jet bomber. B-47, fantastic aircraft, fantastic looking aircraft, could maybe fit into the game with some minor tweaks to how aerialistic battles worked. It really is an aircraft with impressive history. I've got some books on it, and I thoroughly recommend you guys do your own research and just learn a little bit about this aircraft. And it's just an awesome plane, and I think a lot of people are just getting very excited about the addition or the prospect of finally having some proper meaty jet bombers in the game. The B-66 I wouldn't say is necessarily representative of a proper meaty jet bomber. I think that would probably go to more like the Avro Vulcan, but hey, it's a step in the right direction, and people are hoping that the B-66 will lead to the B-47, which will lead to the B-52. Stepping stones, guys, stepping stones. And imagine how cool it would be to fly one of the chonky boys. And if you ask me, I mean, when a big plane like this comes to War Thunder, it should always have a counterpart added at the same time, so it's, you know, the matchmaking is fair. For example, when the Super Sabre first came to the game, or just supersonic aircraft first came to the game, we also got the MiG-19 and the Javelin. The Javelin was probably a bit of a weird choice, because Britain kind of had a funny time with getting its first supersonic planes. I mean, you went from the Hunter, which could go about 700 miles an hour, so just subsonic, to the Lightning, which was well over 1,000 miles an hour, so there's quite a big gap there, so they kind of just went with the Javelin. Haven't modelled it properly, it goes too slow for what it could do in real life, but the point is there was something there to be competitive at top tier. So what I'm trying to say is if they add the B-47 to the game, well, maybe that could pave the way, or just, you know, to make it fair, at the same time, maybe Russia gets the Tu-16 or the H-4, whichever one's the smaller one. I think it's the Tu-16. And Britain could get the Vickers Valiant, because that's also similar in capability when it comes to speed and payload. So would be really nice to see. Anyways, that's the B-47 Stratojet. Just some basic information and some basic reasons as to why it should come to the game. And with the addition of the B-66 Destroyer, well, I think we finally have some hope for it to come to the game after all. Fingers crossed this is the start of something great, not just with regards to future planes to come to the game, but also future videos to come to the channel. I'd like to maybe try and do one of these planes I want in War Thunder every week or every other week. If you guys are interested in that, then let me know down in the comments below. And yes, hopefully we are back to good now. You know, I have new reasons to be hopeful about the YouTube channel again, at least with regards to its monetization. Fingers crossed YouTube aren't going to screw me over yet again. Anyways, I am actually uploading this on my first day back at university, and this means I am basically able to be more social online, because I've been busy at home with the family and doing various other things. But now I'm going to be back to being independent. I can do more things on the Discord and maybe make more videos, and I will start live streams. Hopefully I'm going to have a first live stream on this channel on Saturday, so make sure you tune into that. Details to come shortly. Anyways, if you enjoyed this video, hit the like button, comment down below what you think of the B-47 and any other aircraft you want to come to the game. Of course, subscribe for more, check out other videos on the channel, and hit the bell to stay notified, and I'll catch you all in the next one.